The inventor becomes the invented, huh? Ba weeb grana weeb ninny bong YouTube, RedWhiteandBluestreak here, and today we're seeing what preceded the Dinobots with New Age H49 Hammond. Now of course, one can usually tell by the car hood feet and the iconic fin ears that this is New Age's legend scale interpretation of Generation 1 Wheeljack from the Transformers. Though what may surprise returning viewers is that this is New Age's first interpretation of the character. No prior DX9 figure for us to compare him to here, but here's the Toy World figure if you want to take a look at that. Looking at this, I think New Age's is definitely an overall improvement in my opinion anyways. So for those who don't know the Autobots' lead inventor, at least until Season 3, Jesus! Wheeljack is the Autobots' main scientist, the brains behind such great inventions like the Dinobots, and the one responsible for this gem of a Transformers moment.
My equilibrium destabilized. Megatron has fallen. I, Starscream, am now your leader. Decepticons, follow me.
Unfortunately, a good amount of his inventions seem to do a little more harm than good, but his spark seems to always be in the right place when it's not scattered all over the streets of Autobot City, but you know. But in life, he was always a fan favorite of the original art crew, in big part because of his unique design. His faceplate and ear lights have always been a notable and admired part of his design. Okay, look, the movie's been out for a while, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. If we can accept Armada's huge departure from the original character as a Wheeljack, I'm sure we can make room for Pablo here.
What about?
No, absolutely not! That one stays in hell where it belongs! Anyways, my original point was going to be that they perfectly nail the overall look of this guy when it comes to the figure, but we'll talk about the robot mode in a second. Let's start with this oddly specific vehicle mode here. So as most people know, the tagline for Transformers is robots in disguise, at least when it's not more than meets the eye. But Wheeljack deciding to be a hyper-specific Lancia Stratos doesn't exactly scream disguise in my opinion. Or rather, I guess it does, since if you're properly disguised like everybody else, this design wouldn't be as loud as it is. That being said, the cartoon paint job is more subtle than the toy deco that is seen on the G1 toy, Classics toy, and Masterpiece toy. Though I definitely prefer that paint job over this. Too bad we don't have that figure from New Age. Huh. Okay. Never mind then. Outside of the paint job, which is still spot on by cartoon standards, they perfectly nailed the look of the car mode here as expected. Bluestreak may have my favorite overall look in both car and robot mode, thus the name of the channel. But singling out the realistic-ish alt modes, it's always been a three-way toss-up between Wheeljack, Sunstreaker, and Hot Rod for me. I mean, this is just slick as all hell from the sharp angles of the windshield and hood to the overall form factor of the vehicle. Unfortunately, this vehicle doesn't roll all that well on my dresser here, but that's probably because I'm not pressing hard enough, and considering the paint on the underside here, I'm not willing to test my luck any more than I need to. Though that being said, I haven't had much of a problem with paint chipping on New Age figures in a while, so maybe my point is moot, but still, I don't want to risk it. Speaking of the underside, it ain't the cleanest thing in the world, but it's a Legends figure. What can you do? But at least he looks just about perfect from every other angle. You know, minus the cartoon color scheme, leaving him feeling a bit bare. And he looks great next to other Legends scale alt modes. Here he is with New Age Herbie and Vanishing Point, New Age Firefox, Magic Square Meteorite, Magic Square Light of Victory, Magic Square Blues, and my next Transformers review, Legacy Armada Starscream. I once mentioned in the past that I love looking at early renders of figures and trying to guess how they transform. But believe you me, I would have never predicted what they pull off for this. Alright, if this was your first time seeing this figure, I want you to raise your hand if you knew exactly how this transformation was gonna go so I know who's a f***ing liar. That was insane! Of all the third-party witchcraft mumbo-jumbo I could have anticipated, never in a million years could I have predicted that. There are things I love here, like how the legs unfold and refold into these clean torso supporters, or how the back of the vehicle swoops around and folds away into the back and sides of the robot. But there are also things I dislike, like the way the fists and arms tab in. Rotating the fist without something to assist you is downright torture with how tiny these fists are, and the first time I did this transformation was with band-aids over both of my thumbs, so you can imagine how much of a pain that was. And the fists must be rotated that way for the alt mode, because the sides of the rear of the alt mode have to tab into the underside of the tail lights, which is already annoying enough, but downright infuriating if you don't rotate the hands. But when all is said and done, you get a remarkably clean, insanely accurate Legend Scale Wheeljack. But looking at this figure, it is becoming increasingly obvious. I can deny it no longer! He is small. Yeah, even by Legend Scale standards, Wheeljack feels oddly small next to other Legend Scale bots in robot mode. I know this is technically accurate to the official G1 scale and the Masterpiece scale, but for some reason he just feels a little too squat to me. Though in some cases maybe that's just the slight scale discrepancy between Magic Square and New Age figures. But even with other New Age figures, I feel Hammond is a bit small to be our favorite snarky Autobot scientist. But that being said, he definitely still looks good, and you can do some perspective tricks to get him to look more in scale or horrifically out of scale with the others. Okay, let's see. Alt mode, transformation, robot. Ah, right! Accessories. Hammond doesn't have extra hands like most other bots, unfortunately, which is a shame! The hands are just on pegs, so there definitely could have been some open hands at the very least for the figure. But at least he has his hands on out of the box. Plus, he has stuff to go in those hands. He has his toolbox light thing from the show, his dinky little gun, which, man, no wonder he got off-screened like that if he was wielding something like that. I can't help but think he's missing something. Oh, shoot, yeah! The shoulder cannon. Yup, he also has his essential shoulder cannon, which can only be mounted on the right side. Hey, future Red, White, and Bluestreak here. Just forgot to mention that he also comes with this arm here. Not too sure what it goes to. The accessories he comes with are really nice, but I seriously wish he had some extra hands. It'd go a long way with enhancing the poses he can get into by himself or with others. There's a ball joint at the head, allowing for the full range of motion. He can look up really far, and down a tiny bit. Full fins are articulated as well. Arm can move all the way around if you move the fin out of the way. Can move out all the way. And there's a nice deep bend at the elbow. There's a free rotation at the waist. Ignore that. A very limited ab crunch. Legs can split out all the way. He can kick forward all the way and back all the way. There's a 90-degree bend at the knee, a hinge at the foot, and a very limited tilt at the ankle. Posability also leaves a bit to be desired, unfortunately, especially with the shallow ab crunch and the minor pivot at the ankle. But it's nothing that can't be worked around, and the articulation isn't the worst, all things considered. It still allows some pretty awesome displays for whatever kind of display or collection you're going for. Just disregard that. Just disregard it. Yeah, unfortunately I drew the short straw again on a QC issue. But it's the gamble that you take with non-first party figures, and I'll take a minor issue like this over bigger issues any day. Plus, I've been pretty lucky on most of my figures besides the last two I've looked at, so as long as it doesn't become a constant going forward with New Age, I'm not too mad. All in all, this figure's pretty good. There are departments where it falls a bit below my expectations, such as the lack of alternate hands, the scale, and some of the articulation, but Hammond is still a worthy representation of Wheeljack at a legend scale, and considering that for now it's either this or Toy World for a fully G1 accurate version of the character, unless you don't really care how accurate to G1 the figure is, in which case Iron Factory may have the better figure here, I'll recommend this one any day. 3 out of 5 is my rating for the figure with those faults in mind. Adding those hands and improving those bits of articulation would be a nice score booster for this guy that New Age could definitely do for a reissue. I mean, they've shown that they're not opposed to improving figures upon re-release, so why not? What can't really be fixed without some significant changes to the mold is the size, however. Though I know there are a lot of people that prefer him to be this size anyways, and all I can say is, it's fine to have a wrong opinion. I get it on camera and it suddenly wants to behave. That's cool. Real cool. Awesome.